Good afternoon, sir. Today, we're honored to welcome the CEO of Welfare of Stray Dogs for an interview as part of our youth led initiative, Strays to Stars. WSD is an organization that has been at the forefront of humane stray dog management in India for decades. Under the leadership of Mr. Abodh, WSD has expanded its impact through large scale sterilization and vaccination programs, rescue operations, community education, and advocacy that shapes both policy and public awareness. Their vision has helped build safer neighborhoods for people and kinder environments for strays. We're very excited to have him with us today to share his insights, especially at a time when the national conversation on animal welfare is evolving. Now, I'll hand it over to my team to start asking the questions.
Good evening, sir. And the first question of the interview is: in recent years, discussions around the welfare and the management of stray dogs in India have become increasingly prominent. From WST's perspective, what are all the biggest challenges and opportunities in ensuring humane and effective care of stray dogs today?
So you're aware that right now, like you rightly said, there's a whole discussion going on in the Supreme Court also about the street animals and street dogs. And I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest challenges is that there's a big there is the law, there is the Animal Birth Control Rules 2023, and unfortunately, the implementation does not happen, especially in maybe I mean maybe in bigger metros, etc. It does, but otherwise, all over India, it has not been consistent, and that is why it's important, to ensure that the animal birth control program that actually lays down the whole narrative for why street dog population management can be done in a humane and a scientific manner, if it is implemented. Like in Mumbai, actually, the areas that we work in the island city, more than 70% of the dogs have already been sterilized. And in Mumbai, we work, and many other organizations work with the municipal corporation, and there's mass vaccination programs run on in terms of rabies, and that has really helped bring down the street dog population and also rabies. So these, of course, are the opportunities that exist, for all cities in India where the animal birth control program is not being implemented. I think also one of the major challenges also is misinformation. So, a lot of times there are fear-based narratives that are, spread about street animals or street dogs, and that really overshadow, compassion and scientific solutions. So I think it's important that we engage constructively with, the societies or the resident associations, and if the right information and is communicated to them, then it's important that we talk to them about the sustainable solutions which are clearly rooted in sterilization, vaccination, and community care rather than displacement of community dogs.
Okay, sir.
Actually, the second question was about the Supreme Court verdict and how it will influence whatever point you covered, the vaccination, sterilization, and community adoption. If you want to add on something for that, to be.
Yeah, I think, though I had not covered the Supreme Court judgment because it is a little different from what I said before. What the Supreme Court now is saying is that there are five categories of institutions like, railway stations and hospitals and, schools and colleges and bus stands and so on, where dogs should be removed and then put into shelters. See, unfortunately, looking at the bigger perspective of street dogs' existence in a urban environment or even in a rural environment. The theory is that the moment you remove the dogs, it creates a vacuum because dogs are territorial, and till they are there, they won't allow other dogs to come in. And the moment you remove, other dogs are going to come in and occupy that territory. Now, um, though, I mean, one is agreeable that should not be there, say, in hospitals. But I think, unfortunately, I mean, I'll give you an example, a practical example where during COVID, you know, uh, I don't know if you remember at the beginning, they had said that COVID might be spread by dogs. Okay. So, they removed a lot of dogs from one public hospital in Mumbai and brought them to us. That time there were about 12, 13 dogs in that hospital and in the campus. And then after 2, 3 months, when they realized that, I mean, uh, it was not true that COVID was spread by animals. Um, uh, when we went to put them back, we realized that 8 more dogs had come in, you know. So instead of 13 dogs, there were 21, 22 dogs, and which were not sterilized, newer dogs. So, so that's why, unfortunately, removal does not work. Also, there are thousands and thousands of cases where schools and colleges adopt dogs, and I think it's important that um, these belong to that. I mean, I know in Mumbai there's a school for the visually challenged, and they have adopted 2 dogs, and they do very well there, and the kids there look after them. You know, so the Supreme Court earlier order of removal, is not going to be practical, and it won't work because other dogs will come in. Um, Secondly, in terms of there are no shelters to put these dogs in also. And the amount of money, of public money that we require will be humongous. If you're following the Supreme Court case that is currently going on, and right now there are, last 3 days there have been arguments going on. Somebody has said that it might cost about 25,000 crores, to um, run these shelters. So, that's why the long-term solutions of vaccinations, sterilizations will take a hit. Yeah, so with these dogs being removed, other dogs coming in, like I said, in Mumbai, we've reached a point where majority of the dogs have been sterilized. So instead, one needs to look at trying to achieve 100% sterilization. What WHO says is that achieve 70% of vaccinations every year for 3 years, and you'll definitely see reduction in not only dog rabies but also human rabies. So I think it's important that maybe the Supreme Court looks at this in a scientific manner, and it helps not only animals but us also, because of all this, of course, rabies goes down, and also dog bites go down.
Uh, just adding on to that question, what have you guys done as an organization of WST to the Supreme Court verdict, like a protest or something? What was your action?
So we also have been one of the petitioners in the Supreme Court, and we have filed affidavits, etc. You know, and also, I mean, there have been a lot of letters that have been sent from um, us and our volunteers, feeders, etc. To the Supreme Court. Requesting that this order be paused and looked upon as differentially in terms of the long-term solutions. So I think that is ongoing. Till now, the Supreme Court has still not given judgment, and the case is going on. You know, so I hope all the there have been protests in Mumbai also and all over the country. You know, and I hope this helps in getting a judgment which will actually help animals and us humans, and we can coexist well.
Pranav, it's your turn.
India has seen rising conversations on zoonotic diseases, rabies awareness, and urban wildlife coexistence in recent months. How can organizations like WSD and youth groups like ours work together to address both safety concerns and compassion for strays?
So I think it's important for organizations like WSD and young people like to spread the word about like you said, zoonotic diseases and rabies awareness, because there are a lot of myths around the disease. So I think with help of young people like you, we should run rabies awareness and vaccination education campaigns, that why what is rabies, why dogs can bite, what to do when dogs bite, um, what is the vaccination that needs to be taken after a bite, so all that is very, very, very important. Not only vaccination, but in terms of, I don't know if you know that the first thing to do after a bite is to wash the wound with soap and water for 15 minutes. They say it, washes away 4.4% of the viral particles. If the dog, of course, has rabies. If the dog doesn't have rabies, naturally it won't spread. And it could be not only a dog, but any warm-blooded animal. So, and then, of course, to put an antiseptic and then complete the post bite course of vaccination. So I think this is very important for us to know and us to spread the word, because there are a lot of myths that also are there out there. So you can just put some, mirchi powder or things like that, which of course, remember, does not work. It's important for us to tell that, one needs to take the full rabies post-bite course. Yeah. Also important for us to know why dogs can bite. Generally, dogs don't bite unless provoked. Yeah. So I think we need to train organizations like WSD needs to train young uh, volunteers like to spread the word. I think the second important thing where youth groups and WSD can work together is about coexisting. Generally, the conflict is where there are dogs living in gated communities or in RWAs or in societies, and I think young people like you can, actually make residents aware. So if you are staying in a gated community or a campus or a society or a apartment building, I think it's important for you first to understand how many community animals are there, to have they been sterilized or not? Have they been vaccinated or not every year against rabies? And then try and, you know, be ambassadors of these animals to um, between the residents and the feeders, so that they also understand that these dogs are going to be there. but how can we minimize, you know, them living in harmony? I mean, how can they live in harmony, and how can they one minimize, you know, any kind of conflict in terms of dog bites and so on. So I think that is one more thing, and also promote the concept of sterilization or spay neuter, or what now is called the CSVR, that is catch, sterilize, uh, vaccinate, and release, you know, because it's not only just an animal welfare issue, it's a public health issue also, which means public health that affects humans. And it's not for only the animal, but for us humans too, you know, because um, I always say that when we started the sterilization program many years ago, it was not just about the animals. In fact, what we are trying to do is that trying to reduce the street dog population. So almost saying that let there not be street dogs on the in the streets. What we are trying to do is that minimize or eliminate rabies, and also minimize the population and minimize the so-called problems that are associated with street dogs. So I think that is something that young people can be trained, and also organizations like WSD can work together with young youth groups. And these are some things that can be, done together, including also addressing the fact that, compassion and safety concerns are not opposite, they are deeply interconnected. In Amish around, or
Yeah, and my next question is, looking forward, what policies or educational initiatives do you believe are most important to ensure a healthy balance between public safety, animal rights, and increasing adoption rates, especially of Desi dogs, which we companion in our campaign?
so I think main see, we are trying to say that reduce the population of street dogs, and mostly street dogs are indies. On the other hand, uh, we are also looking at people going and buying dogs, unfortunately. So I think it is important for us to spread awareness about the ills of breeding and breeders. Yeah, and of course some of the breeds should not be there in like tropical climates, like in Mumbai. Sometimes I see huskies, and remember, these are dogs that should be in snow and cold climates. So I think we need to, so young people like you need to promote the adoption of indies, clearly understanding that indies are not only good looking, but they make amazing pets, and also they are much more acclimatized to our climate. They are less susceptible to diseases. Veterinarians will tell you that because they are hardier. And unfortunately, a lot of breeds come with, because of inbreeding and so on, they come with their own genetic issues or problems. Uh, I meet a lot of young people that who come to us for doing volunteer work. A lot of times they also say that we didn't know when we went and bought this dog. So I think it's important that in the future, of course, we understand that instead of going and buying a dog, um, adopt it from a shelter in your city, because so what we are trying to do is that the same thing when um, people say that let's reduce the population on the streets. Instead of breeds going into people's homes, dogs that need a home will go into people's homes. Um, Also, sometimes I get a call and say, do you know any ethical breeder? You know, And I always think that is an oxymoron, because I mean, I can tell you stories and stories, and everybody in the animal welfare world will tell you horrendous stories of how lactating uh, mother, I mean, in terms of Dalmatians, breeds have been abandoned once they have been of, I mean, they don't are not of any use, because they have been just used for breeding. The puppies have been weaned away at a very young age when they should have been with the mother, and and again, bred. Yeah. So I think, and I mean, I don't need to get into the details of what we call puppy mills, where it's like a factory where, you know, puppies are being bred and sold, So I think that is the crux of the matter. And I think um, today, of course, more and more people are adopting indies and adopting from shelters. But I think it needs to, you know, go up and scale up, to a point that we can not have dogs sitting, in a shelter. I mean, and see, on the other hand, you're looking at, you know, judgments that want to put in dogs in a shelter, for life. But at least the dogs that right now are abandoned or can't live on the streets and are in shelters need to go into homes.
Thank you for that, sir. So, to conclude, I would just really like to thank you for taking the time to enlighten us with your insights and giving us such a wonderful opportunity to increase our credibility as an initiative. And I would also really like to thank you for the fantastic job that you are doing as an organization for such a cause, because especially as this is becoming such a growing concern in our country. And so we're really thankful for your organization.
Well, thank you, and thank you. I'm glad that young people like you are looking at this cause and this subject, and spreading the word amongst your peers and parents, I'm sure, and everybody else. So thank you. I should be the one thanking you. So thanks a lot.